Hey around, welcome to our GrowCast show. This is episode 105. My name is Yu Hong and I'll be your host for today. Today in our studio, we have trainer Jeffrey, founder of JF Self-Defense Studio. Let's welcome him. And let's get to our questions for today. So trainer Jeffrey, how did you get started in martial arts as well as self-defense?
Well, I started a long time ago. When I was younger, I was walking around and I saw this martial art called Taekwondo. And I was mesmerized, I was fascinated with the type of kicks, kind of things the legs can do with the kicks. I was in my teenage, I think I was 17, 18 years old. So I went back and I told my mom that I wanted to learn. My father was an ex-boxer and he was actually against us learning any form of violence. But I told my mom I wanted to learn and my mom quietly sponsored me. And that's how I got started more than 45 years ago in Taekwondo. And I think that the rest, they say, is history.
Who is Jeffrey Fleury and what is his background?
Okay, basically, I was enlisted in national service. I was a combat medic. After I left, I OR'd, I met my wife, and then the father was a police officer. So he said that if you want to get someone, you must get someone with a stable job. So I joined the police force, and then I served the force for about 11 years. I left as an investigator with the police force, and I got the Long Service and Good Conduct Medal. But I picked up martial arts more seriously when I was in the police force. Because we were dealing with crime. We were dealing with aggressive people. I was actually, one of the areas I looked after was actually the gangs. So that's how I picked up martial arts and I got interested in martial arts. So from there, I started to study various forms of martial arts. And then I got married and then I had my two sons. And I felt that they also needed to learn martial arts. So they started to follow me at around 7, 8 years old. So the arts that I joined varied from Kido, Taekwondo, Hapkido, boxing and things like that.
Why did you choose to specialize in self-defense, not so much of martial arts?
Okay, I started off in traditional martial arts like Taekwondo, Hapkido, Hapkido and things like that. I've got black belts in Hapkido. I've got second dan actually, Hapkido and Taekwondo. But when I became a police officer and then later on when I left the force and went into the commercial sector, I was there for about 40 years. I felt that martial arts had its strengths and weaknesses. One of the weakness I saw was the belt system. It took quite a long time for you to reach between from white to black. Sometimes it can take 3 to 6 years. When it comes to being in a very stressful situation, a dangerous situation, like if somebody's choking you, you've got to come out within the first 10 seconds. In fact, sooner, because it takes 8 to 10 seconds before you're choked out. So I found that it took time for people to pick up martial arts. And then since I have various backgrounds in various forms of martial arts, my son and I decided that we should come up with something which is quick, easy, applicable for people to use. And that's how self-defense came about. Because self-defense generally came out from combat arts like Kapap, Krav Maga. And for them, when you're in a dire situation, you need to come out like that within first 5 seconds, 10 seconds. So that's how I started to branch into self-defense and moved away from martial art. But mind you that a lot of my self-defense art, I took various forms from various martial arts. I took what I think was relevant, necessary, effective, and then I didn't use those I think may not be so effective.
What is the driving force for you to create and teach your brand of self-defense?
The idea of self-defense was actually mooted by my son, my eldest son. He's 35 now. He's teaching in London, 9 years. He said, Dad, we have so much of knowledge, especially you. Why don't you give back to society, social responsibility? But I was telling him, look here, boy, I told my son that I was very busy. I was actually the head of Asia, and I was also a trainer for security courses. But he said, Dad, you should take time to give back to society. That's where we sat down and we came up with syllabus and combined what we learned and to teach. One of the reasons I also decided to teach martial arts was because I was passionate about teaching those who were not able to defend themselves well, women, children, also those who have been abused like bullies. That's one of the primary reasons I decided that this form of learning self-defense would be more conducive for these groups of people to learn something quickly and fast, to apply it quickly and fast.
So what are the top 3 concepts of self-defense that you feel that everyone should know?
Well, there are several concepts. At the top of my head, I would say situational awareness. Very important is your situational awareness and your posturing. I'll draw to you an example which I was in the security branch, so I know a lot of examples. They did a research in US of people standing at the traffic lights. And they got prisoners who were violent and all that to say which of these groups of people you would pick to attack or abuse and to dominate. So the first one was the one that they was not aware of the environment. They were looking at their phones, looking around. They're just looking at their phones. They were not concentrating. The second group of people was their posturing. They were passive. They were not confident. They appeared to show low self-esteem. And the third group of people was the one that was postured well. They were looking at the environment. They were aware. They were conscious of what's going on. So they said that the last group, they would not touch. The other two, they would pick because they felt that they can dominate, they can assert, they can control. So situational awareness and posturing would be one. The second one is always try to de-escalate. My rule is if you can, run. If somebody says, hey, look here, you're stupid, you're a fool, you're a coward, say, I'm sorry, I don't want to fight, I apologize for anything, back off and run. Because nothing comes out from fighting. If for me, if I were to get involved in a fight, I have to think about the legal implications. I've got to think about the court case. With my age, I'm thinking about what kind of damage I will sustain. So the best is to try to de-escalate. If you can, if you see the danger from far, run. Nothing wrong in running. My third concept I would share would be when push comes to shove, if you're cornered and you have no choice, I say fight to win. So you got to go for core areas. Your eyes, nose, throat will be the first areas I would target, especially when I train women. And then the groin. So this gives you that space when you hit maybe 15, 30 seconds to escape to safe zone. So when push comes to shove and you have no choice but to execute self-defense techniques, I recommend core areas. I call this a triangle of pain. Anywhere in these areas, the hundreds of points you can hit will give your aggressor sufficient pain that he'll back off and enough of space for you to run away. It'll be situational awareness with posturing. The second one would be de-escalate. De-escalating, running best. And then the third one is when push comes to shove, you got to go for core points. I call this a triangle of pain. Anywhere here, hit, groin is another one, and then run. It gives you enough of space, time when you hit someone to actually escape, which supports the second one.
What would be your number one most frequently asked question about self-defense?
Oh, there are quite a lot. If you ask me to rank, I would say, does self-defense work? These questions normally come from women. They always ask, does self-defense work? Because they feel that they are the weaker sex. And some of them are not very active. So they always ask me the question, does self-defense work? I say, yes, of course, it has to work. Or else you will forever be living in fear. So, but of course, you got to take the first step and come and train. Because when you use self-defense, it's got to be spontaneous. You cannot think if somebody's choking you, what did my coach teach me? You will die. So it has to be automatic when you're choked. It has to be instinctive because of the training. You just react and then you come out of it. But that comes with regular training. But at least start with a few sessions. When you come for my first session, you will learn quite a lot that you walk away with. You have to walk away with something when you come and train with us.
What is the number one biggest objection that you hear from people who are very hesitant about starting their own self-defense classes?
They're scared of pain. One of the things that they will always ask me, is it painful? Do I have to be physically fit to train? I said, you have to start. Of course, in the process of learning, you'll build confidence, you build fitness, and your threshold of pain also goes up. Because I told him the aggressor doesn't differentiate whether you learn self-defense or not. If somebody is choking you, you will be in pain. If somebody is hitting you, you will be in pain. The question is, how do you come out of it? How do you build threshold for it? But of course, I don't advocate being hit. If you can hit first. It's called preemptive strike. There's a term for that. That means if the body language shows that you're going to do a strike, and there are many cues, the moment you shift your body, the moment you shift your body weight, sometimes you clench your fist, and then you have taken steps to back off and say, hey, look here, back off, and the guy comes forward and he shows body language signs that he's going to hit you, then you initiate the strike. It's called a preemptive strike.
What are the top two common myths or misunderstandings that people have about self-defense? Well,
at the top of my head, I would say that many people think that learning self-defense is about learning how to fight. And that when they learn self-defense, they know how to fight, they know how to defend themselves and things like that. And I'd like to give a quote from crisis management, that failing to plan is planning to fail. The reason you learn self-defense is so that you can avoid a fight, not to get engaged in a fight. Because no one knows the outcome of a fight. No one knows. Sometimes it's not the punch that kills you, it's the fall that kills you. So the misconception about learning self-defense is primarily that you can fight. It's one of the most common misconceptions. Another common one I get, especially more from women, is that I'm not strong enough. I'm not athletic. I don't exercise that much. I always tell them that's perfectly fine. Start. Because like everything else, like you didn't know how to read when you were young, you went to school. Now you know how to read. How did you become a doctor? You studied 5 years in medical school, then you became a doctor. You put in the time, you put in the effort, and then you accomplish things. So for those that say I'm weak, I'm a woman, the thing is I'm a female, I am weak, I don't exercise much, I say that's perfectly fine. But you need to start. Come and train, slowly build, see the change in you, the confidence in you, and that's how you begin.
Who is your ideal client and who amongst them exactly benefits the most from your training and why?
If I were to narrow down who is my ideal client, it would be women. Because now women travel more, they're more independent. They would benefit from the training that my school provides, the situational awareness, the posturing, the soft skills of self-defense also encompasses reading about the location where you're going to. This is something I also teach. That if I'm going, just give you an example, to Delhi, India, which is known for certain cases, I would read about the crime trend. I would also check out the hotels. And I would advise you to stay in a decent hotel, like a 3 to 4 star. Read more about the place you're going to go to. If you're going from a company perspective, get someone to meet you. Normally, if you're with a multinational company, there's a security person, a corporate security, work with them. Make sure that there's, which taxis to pick up. Some taxis are not good, some are good. All right, things like that. So the soft skills of learning the environment, and apart from situational awareness and other things that I teach, would be very useful for women who travel. For leisure as well as business. Now, moving down...
Who exactly benefits the most?
Again, I would continue with women because on the mother's perspective, let's say, for example, they need to learn how to protect their child as well. Like attacks of children occur in playgrounds. So when you learn self-defense, the soft skills that you pick up is situational awareness. So you are able to see threats, you are able to see dangers ahead of people who are not trained. Your sense of security awareness becomes heightened. So you can take your child out of the zone very fast if you sense. One of the things I teach also for people, especially women, is trust your instincts. If your instincts tell you that hey, this guy is walking around the playground, it doesn't feel good, take your child out.
What is something about self-defense that most people overlook or fail to fully understand?
Okay, most people think self-defense is about punching, kicking, throwing, because they see a lot of movies like John Wick and Ballerina of the latest, I think. It's a very good action movie though, good martial arts inside. But self-defense is more than that. As I said, there are two, I branch it broadly into two aspects. The physical aspects, which of course you need to learn, how to defend yourself, the striking, the kicking, the throwing, and all that stuff. And the soft skills. But if you understand the soft skills well and you actually ingrain it, you can avoid 80% of the hard skill, 80% of the confrontation altercation. We call it the 20-80 Pareto, right? You've heard of it. So learning the soft skills is very important. Learning how to distance yourself, your posturing, your confidence helps deter a lot of potential aggressors. Secondly, setting up barriers is part of the soft skills. Back off. Your voice, your tone, your posturing. Most aggressors like to take on people, especially women who are weak. So the posturing reflects that when they don't look you in the eye and they cower away when you're talking to them. And that's how they are like alpha males, so that they start dominating. But if you are able to stand your ground and your posturing says, look here, this is the boundary we set, back off. That helps deter a lot of things. So the soft skills is something I stress a lot because if you understand the soft skills well, you avoid using the hard skills most of the time.
What is currently trending or gaining attention in both the martial arts and self-defense industry right now?
What I can see that is trending right now are hybrid systems. That people are combining martial arts with some form of combat and self-defense training. This comes from the UFC actually, because if you want to become a proficient UFC fighter, you have got to combine a stand-up. You have got to combine a stand-up, be it boxing, Muay Thai, or karate, and a ground, be it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ, Judo, or wrestling. Otherwise, it will be very hard for you to win in a match like that. You have to know stand-up and ground. So people are now, if people who are learning BJJ, they're actually taking up skills like self-defense, kapap, Krav Maga, or even boxing to supplement. So I see hybrid systems coming out of it. I also notice a surge in women learning self-defense, going into this field. I think because more women are now independent, traveling for job as well as leisure. And I see another focus group that's coming slowly into the picture. It's called the LGBTQ+. they are now open to this kind of training. One of the reasons is because they also want to feel self-assured. They also want to be able to manage themselves, because there's a certain amount of stigma, sometimes maybe abuse in some countries. So they're looking to be able to defend themselves.
And what is the difference between self-defense and martial arts?
Martial arts has got its own system, but one of the things that martial arts has moved away, traditionally martial arts was actually self-defense. Its aim was to defend yourself effectively, quickly, efficiently. But then when we went into sports, it changed altogether. If you look at, for example, I come from the Taekwondo background as well. When they do the sparring, they're only using legs. They're not using strikes when they're in close range or even a throw. And then when they are caught in the corner, what does the subject do? He turns and stops, and then the referee breaks out the fight. And now that's a very bad habit in street fight. You'll be finished, or you'll be choked out, you'll be clobbered. So when they move into sports, they lost the essence of self-defense quite a lot. So, and I come from traditional arts. I was a vice president of Hapkido and Taekwondo. I had black belts in all these arts. I find that it takes time for someone to really be proficient as getting a black belt. It takes 3 to 6 years. Whereas in my self-defense class, in the first lesson, you walk away with something. You walk away with soft skills like distancing and posturing, and you learn a strike. And for women, to be honest with you, my first strike I teach is palm strike, not close fist, because most women, when I say most women, I mean those who are untrained, can't punch. Because number one, their wrist is soft. Number two, they have long nails. They can't close.
Yeah.
So they can't punch. So palm strike would be the best. It doesn't break anything. So that's why I decided to move into self-defense. And I think they can learn faster and equip themselves more.
So what do you see yourself in the self-defense field going on in the next few years? And what is your long-term vision?
Where I can see growing is that as we move into the self-defense and scenario and things like that, the fundamentals won't change. You know how to defend yourself. You learn how to strike and all that. But now they're moving more into teaching you more soft skills like empowerment. And some are even moving into some yoga practices, like at the end of the session, you actually lie down or you start breathing to calm yourself down. Because one of the techniques I sometimes teach is that when you are stressed, when you're frightened, when you're stepping back and say back off, what you do is learn how to control your breath. Breathe in, breathe out. That's how you calm your nerves very fast. Because you'll be excited, you'll be nervous, and there's fear. So these things like meditation, empowerment, more situational awareness, environmental awareness is also stepping in. Environmental awareness is very simple. Like if you're in a coffee shop and someone comes with a knife and approaches you, number one, your table is a barrier. Your environment. Number two, you got chairs set all around you. You can use the chairs to defend yourself. All right. You also have a cup of coffee. You can also use that. So this is called environmental awareness. So that's coming more and more, going to the soft skills. The fundamental of the hard skills will always be there. My long-term vision basically is to share as much as I can with as many people as I can, because I feel this is a very useful, relevant skill that people must have, just like swimming. Singapore is an island surrounded by waters. You generally have to learn how to swim. So to me, learning self-defense is a life skill that everyone should learn and must learn.
What advice would you give to someone who's never considered self-defense training, but is now interested?
The mere fact that you're interested, it means something is prompting you to look it up. There's a saying in our martial arts world, when the student is ready, the master will appear. I think you've heard that. So the mere fact that you are thinking about it, your intuition is prompting you that you should go and consider learning this skill. That's how I see it. So go and start it.
How do you tailor your self-defense methods to suit different people and their needs?
Okay, let's go into the female scenario, just for an example. Now, when a certain age comes and train with me, let's say you're talking about between 35 to 55 and things like that. These are all mature women with careers. So their needs are different. They want to build fitness, confidence. They want to be able to manage themselves. If you talk about maybe elderly people, then you're talking about mobility. You're talking about strength. Of course, knowledge. Because if you can de-escalate, that's fine. But then, of course, basic striking skills. But more core strength, stability, basic skills which they can use. My grandmaster used to say, when we had a 60-year-old person, normally when you're young, 18 and 19 years old, you can do a high kick, you can do a split. But my grandmaster has ever said, if the guy can kick you in the knee, give him the black belt. It's good enough. So you have to tailor according to the age and the capabilities of that person. And also, what's his need? Why is he learning? Does he feel unsure of the environment, or just wants strength, confidence, and things like that?
Why is it important for women to learn self-defense?
That's straightforward because women themselves see themselves as a weaker sex. Physically, mentally some are strong, but physically. And now, as I said earlier, that they're traveling a lot, they're independent, they're mothers. So learning this skill is like a survival skill. Because as I said, self-defense I teach has got two components, soft skills and hard skills. One of the soft skills I teach in my self-defense seminar is do your homework on the environment that you're going to. Make sure you check it out. Also, some of the soft skills I teach is, for example, if it's called situational awareness, like if somebody is following you and you sense that somebody is following you, you can use the mirrors to gauge whether the guy is moving fast or moving slow. Like, when I'm walking along shopping centers, I look at the mirrors of the car and I see whether the guy is following me. Another advice I give in my soft skills is that if you are traveling, who you think would be the best person you seek advice, especially if you're lost for direction? Who most people would seek advice for? Who you think? Police? Who else?
Shop owners.
Okay. Especially family members, generally, police is my second. I will seek advice, especially if I'm with my family, especially for women, from mothers with children. Because police in some countries are known not to be forthright. I would look at the family, they got children, and I'll go to them to seek advice. You know what I'm saying? So these are some of the soft skills I also teach, which is very important for us. Because if you study your soft skills well, you avoid the hard skills.
What is the best age for women to learn self-defense?
I would say any age would be good. Ideally, of course, if you are younger and fitter, you can pick up faster. I always ask women, do they do sports? A woman who does racket games, her balance is there, her coordination is there, picks up faster versus a person who's been desk-bound. But anyone can pick up. And again, if the thought comes to you that you need to learn, you go and learn. You should learn because your instincts already tell you, hey, why am I thinking about it? So just go and do it.
What would you say to a lady who feels that she's too old for self-defense?
Crime doesn't discriminate age. First rule, if you are 60 and somebody is going to rob you, they say, how old are you? I'm 60, when am I going to rob you? Crime doesn't discriminate age. So as far as you're capable and suddenly you think about it or you see a need, many people sometimes say that I am actually in Singapore is a very safe country. I do not need to learn anything. I say, as I shared in crisis management, failing to plan is planning to fail. Mere fact that you thought about it, go and do it. And in the police force, there's a saying, low crime doesn't mean no crime. So it's always good to learn a survival skill, and I consider learning self-defense a survival skill like swimming. So to me, you need to pick it up. There's no age barrier. However, if you're 60, 65, then of course, we have to tailor the training to certain aspects of your age and your need. You know what I'm saying? I don't expect you to do a split or high kick, but if you do a low kick to the kneecaps, good enough for me. Because there's a concept in self-defense I teach. Can't stand, can't fight. Most effective is the kneecaps.
What happens in the first free trial session with you?
I expose them to various concepts. One of the fundamental concepts is I always tell them, you are not weak. You are actually, the term is a perfect weapon because your whole body can be used to strike you. All your fingers can be used to strike. Finger jabs is one of the first things I teach a person, especially women. And women are very good for finger jabs because they got long nails. Then you got your palm strike, and then you got your punch, and then you got your hammer fist, and you got your elbows. Then you go down to the legs, you got your knees, and you got the shin. Then you got the headbutt. When you are very close range, the headbutt, these things are called the horns of the head. It's as hard as your knuckle. You can damage someone just by headbutting them. And then when you are in close range, because I teach them range of fighting, like if you are in the distance, the first weapon I use call it weapon or tool, is my legs. Then comes my hands, my elbows, my knees, and then if somebody grabs me and I can't move, my mouth. Then they ask me, what do I do with my mouth? I say, are you a vegan or vegetarian? I say, no. Then I say, bite. You bite. Okay, you bite the person here, you bite the person here. Why? It creates gap. It pushes you away, you run. Next thing, run. Training has to be fun. You learn a lot because it's fun. And you become boring, you just don't pick up skills. But when they're enjoying themselves, they pick up a lot of skills.
And which is better to learn self-defense for women? One-on-one or group classes?
That depends on their need. Some of them, and I've trained many, they say that I'm going to be based in, example, a certain country for 1 month. So they want to pick up skills very fast. They got no time to do that. So one-on-one is good if you have certain time zone, time restriction, and you want to pick up certain skills. One-on-one is excellent. Of course, the downside is you don't train with others. You can't train with others and mix with others and things like that. Group sessions are good because why? People come because there's group. It's fun. They can meet one another. They enjoy the camaraderie and they enjoy, training one another and then pitting their skills against one another. Women are competitive, yeah. All right. So pitting their skills and things like that. If you grab, they'll try to escape. You grab so hard, then later they'll grab you back and things like that. So there are pros and cons to it. It depends on the time frame that you have for learning, your needs. But I would recommend a mixture of both. If you have no skills, one-on-one will be good. Got your fundamentals, can go to the group.
That's all the questions we have for trainer Jeffrey today. So stay tuned for episode 106. See you.